Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. As the ecclesiastical train wreck, that is Pope Francis' Synod on Synodality, gets underway in Rome today, Church Militant will be bringing you every bit of what you need to know of the day's events from our Rome correspondent Jules Gomez on the ground in the Eternal City in our much-beloved broadcast, Rome Dispatch, hosted here in Detroit by our own Brad Eli. We will be providing a link here in the Vortex every day for the month of October to their discussion and their breakdown of the daily events at the Synod. Jules is a highly respected international journalist who has broken multiple stories for Church Militant over the past number of years and enjoys the confidence of numerous sources in and around the Vatican. Don't miss a single episode of Rome Dispatch, a one-stop shopping for you each day on all the news from the Synod, concise and straightforward. So just click on that provided link below after the Vortex for an absolute latest from Rome. Now for today. Guess who is all of a sudden a champion of the southern border being regulated and the flow of millions and millions of illegals brought to an end? Well, none other than New York City's bumbling Cardinal Archbishop Timothy Dolan, whose clock is ticking on the end of his scandal-plagued reign in the Big Apple.
I never thought of that. That's a new one. That's for you.
Yeah, Cardinal Lafapalooza is all of a sudden concerned that since Catholic governors Greg Abbott of Texas and Ron DeSantis of Florida are shipping busload after busload of illegals out of their states straight to the steps of the liberal cities whose leaders caused this chaos, that now a nation should have effective border policy. Go figure. Quoting the laughing cardinal from last week, quote, "The church has always been very supportive of the right of a nation to have borders and border security. We don't just want borders where anybody can come in."
I never thought of that. That's a new one. That's for you.
Funny he says that. Dolan is right that this is the church's teaching, but here in America, where those who are supposed to teach that teaching, the bishops, it has gone largely ignored and actually trampled on. Could it be because the bishops have made billions off the backs of U.S. taxpayers ignoring the teaching? Likely. When the nation's primary diocese, Baltimore, last week, late on a Friday afternoon so as to avoid as much press coverage as possible, became almost the 36th diocese to declare bankruptcy in the face of homosexual clergy sex abuse lawsuits, it became astoundingly clear that money is the driving factor for these men. Billions of your tax dollars have been paid out to churches' attorneys in an effort to thwart victims being compensated.
I never thought of that. That's a new one. That's for you.
Hilarious, isn't it? Parishes have been closed, thousands of them, properties sold off, and yet the big cash cow, U.S. tax dollars flowing to the bishops for their immoral role in illegal immigration, remains largely under the radar when it comes to most Catholics understanding the connection. The billions in collection plate dollars and church holdings they have paid out in legal costs have largely been offset by U.S. tax dollars. By the way, a shout out to Baltimore Archbishop William Lori for trying to hide the news of him declaring bankruptcy by issuing the release at 1 minute to 5 on a Friday. Did you really think no one would notice, Archbishop? Really? Lori has been a snake of an operator in the hierarchy for nearly his entire career. He plays dumb, but is as crafty as they come. There's hardly a scandal in the church he isn't intimately connected with. Someone needs to tell DeSantis and Abbott to save a little gas money and drop off a few million illegals in Baltimore so Lori could have his own sudden policy change as well. That would make Cardinal Timothy not in my backyard Dolan happy. It's funny, you know, all these immigration lovers, Obama, Hillary, New York Mayor Eric Adams, and in fact the entire Democratic Communist Party establishment, they're all good with invisible, non-existent borders until it affects them. I mean, you can almost picture Dolan standing on the front steps of St. Patrick's on Fifth Avenue bellowing, "Not in my cathedral."
I never thought of that. That's a new one. That's for you.
Dolan, mercifully, has less than 2 years to go. He hands in his resignation on his 75th birthday, February 6th, 2025, less than 16 months away. He came to New York with the reputation of being a strong Orthodox bishop. Well, that was all a facade. Like so many of the rest of the hierarchy, he presented whatever face he thought he needed to climb the ladder. He fought behind the scenes like crazy to get gays into the St. Patrick's Day parade in a Faustian deal with then Governor Andrew Cuomo to get funding for New York Catholic schools from state lawmakers in exchange for gays in the parade. Well, the deal blew up in his face. The schools are closing and the gays are marching. And millions of illegals continue to pour across the border, with Dolan only now expressing concern. Communism has complete and total control over the Democratic Party. Part of that control was achieved through their use and manipulation of the U.S. bishops, playing on their greed. You wonder, do any of these men, as they reach their end, actually have a drop of remorse for what they have done to bring about the collapse of the Republic? Within 3 years, almost all of these men will be gone from office. Vigneron in Detroit here is done this month. Supich in Chicago in 5 months. Dolan in 16 months. Lori in 30 months. They weren't content with helping undermine the church. They helped engineer the collapse of the Republic as well. That's one hell of a track record, fellas. Wow. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.